meds are making speds. At least that's what the White House really seems to think. Personally, I think that left-handedness explains the raise in rates of diagnosed autism cases way better. But before I get into facts and logic to rain on the White House's parade, I'll let them explain their stance and the research they've been doing recently first, in their own words.
First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of let's see how we say that, acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good.
Now myself, many individuals in the scientific community, and even many reporters are calling out the White House on this possibly dubious study. Here's a little fun fact for you. You know why Tylenol has the highest rate of causing autism amongst painkillers used by pregnant women? That's because, come here, buddy. That's because it is literally the only painkiller used by pregnant women. So it's competing against itself. Of course it's going to have the higher rates. Really, here's what I think is probably going on. I personally think that left-handedness explains the phenomenon way better. So you see, back in the day, being left-handed used to be considered a sin, like a real bad one. It was genuinely treated as a symptom of you being a morally corrupt individual. At the time, schools were allowed to use corporal punishment willy-nilly, so left-handedness literally got beat out of the majority of the population. But then at the start of the 20th century, people started being a little more civilized, religion started having a slightly less chokehold on civil society, and people started thinking, maybe being left-handed isn't all that bad. So people started being allowed to go through their youth and then grow up into adulthood being left-handed. So left-handedness rates started to rise across the country. And people who were still against left-handedness pointed to it as an example of, oh my God, we allowed left-handedness to be pervasive, and now this moral degradation is corrupting society as a whole. But here's the funny thing. After years and years of an increase year after year, left-handedness plateaued. And since they plateaued, rates have basically stayed the same. Why? Well, more than likely, the plateaued rate was the actual natural rate of left-handedness. In a society where left-handedness was stigmatized, people who were left-handed hid the fact they were and compensated by just being right-handed. But once the stigma was gone, people got to live their lives more openly, and so the rate at which it appeared to get higher because people weren't scared to just be themselves anymore. And I have to imagine that's what's happening with autism diagnoses too. Not that long ago, you would just flat out not be considered autistic if you could function in day-to-day life at all. And then slowly over time, we keep chipping away at that perception to where we've gotten to the modern understanding of autism where, yes, there are people who are pervasively disabled who will never be able to live on their own because of their autism and need significant amounts of support. However, there's plenty of people who, if you just give them a reasonable amount of support, nothing more than the majority of chronic illnesses take, then they can live fully fulfilled lives. So more and more people go through their childhood and into adulthood not being stigmatized, actually seeking the help they need, and the rates of diagnoses reflect this. It's not some chemical poison that's turning everybody autistic. We as a society are just slightly nicer to neurodivergent people now, so more people feel comfortable identifying as neurodivergent. Personally, I would bet my left nut that in the very near future, this raise in diagnosed rates is going to plateau off the exact same way that the left-handed curve did. Why? Because it happens over and over again when something that is benign but stigmatized stops being stigmatized. So it's up to you what you believe is actually causing the increase in diagnosed rates. You can side with the White House and think that meds are causing speds, or you can think that the left-handed curve is happening. At the end of the day, it's up to you.